Hi, Linda. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Yeah, so this is just a quick catch up. You're obviously speaking at the 13th European Food Show Summit later this. Well, it's actually in a couple of months almost now in Milan, and we just had a couple of questions about your session. It's quite an exciting session, um, and I guess before we get into that, I'll just start off with. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your work at Harrods?
Lovely. Okay. Well, well, you know my name, Linda Cudjoe, and I've been in the industry about 30 years. Um, my background is food science by chemistry, and I have a master's in business administration as well. In terms of areas covered, I have covered a very wide range of the industry, interestingly. In my time, I've done retail, I've done manufacturing, I've done food service, and I've come all the way back into retail and restaurants. At the same time, I've also done quite a bit of training. I'm an accredited trainer, and I also have under my belt a few years of consultancy. So I think that over the years that I've been in the industry, I've managed to sort of secure myself a wide enough spread through all pretty much every continent on the world. I guess the only continent I can say I haven't actually done very much is Australia. But apart from that, I've pretty much worked on every continent. So I think I've got a truly global picture of what's happening out there in the food industry. Now, in terms of Harrods, I would say that Harrods is very unique.
Yeah.
It's unique in the sense that not many places have are fortunate enough to have everything in one place. And
Okay.
by saying that, Harrods is the only place I know that has retail, that has manufacturing, that has restaurants, that has almost cafe type all in one building. And in saying that, when I say manufacturing in one building, people look at me again. But actually, yes, I look after two teams. One team deals with manufacturers outside of Harrods who are making the products that we sell in the food halls. But we actually have in that building 4 production units. So that building that you see in Knightsbridge is 7 floors high and 7 floors down.
Oh, wow.
And in our basement, yep, in our basement, we have 4 production kitchens. We have what we call the cold kitchen, where we're making the salad assemblies, the sandwich assemblies, all the what we call our ready-to-eat foods that go into the food halls to be sold. We also have the hot production kitchens, which are like big CPU, central production unit, that makes a lot of the mise en places for the restaurants, but it also makes all the what we call the food to go or the food for later, which is the mac and cheeses and the beef Wellingtons and the salmon and cruise, all the foods that people buy to go and enjoy at home later.
Okay.
We have the bakery, which makes all the morning goods like all the breads and the croissants and all the pastries. And then we have the patisserie kitchen as well. So that makes everything. So literally everything that you see on the ground floor in the food hall, I would say 97% is made in-house in Harrods.
Oh, wow.
We have also a mini roastery where we roast our coffees for sale and roast them for our restaurants. And then we also have a little tea blending unit where we have a tea master who would blend the various black teas. Plus, we have a little chocolatery where we're making chocolates in our chocolate hall in Harrods as well. So it's a massive operation if you think about it that way. Um, so you can see that it's a very diverse operation, albeit pretty much in one place. This calls for different systems. This calls for different ways of doing things. coupled with the fact that we have a whole host of people, about 5,000 people working in that building. If you see the diversity of people in there, the diversity of cultures that you have to deal with in there, it's a massive operation. The name Harrods is iconic.
Of course, yeah, it is.
And again, Harrods is probably one of the very few places in the world that is easily recognizable when you mention the name anywhere.
Yeah.
That comes with a lot of benefits. It also comes with a lot of problems, because the expectation of an iconic luxury store is very high. And it is even more important to make sure that we get things right so that we're meeting the high expectations of our customers. That responsibility, in my view, makes us vulnerable. And that responsibility in itself alone is a reason for me why food safety culture is paramount. And as our MD says, food safety must be in the DNA of everybody who works at Harrods, because brand protection is so, so important. And we never underestimate the value of our brand protection. Our store has been in existence for 175 years. The tradition and the reputation has been built over 175 years. And I always say that under my watch, that is not going to be compromised. It's a big responsibility.
Thank you very much, Linda, for that very comprehensive answer. But my only comment would be, you hide it very well. If you're saying that you've got all of these production lines working underground, and some of them in plain sight, it's not always, you don't always get to see that kind of stuff when you visit Harrods, because when the few times that I have visited, everything looks very pristine, everything looks very professional. You would never know that that there's chocolate happening, and coffee being roasted, and salmon on croute, I think you said, being cooked downstairs. You would never notice or smell or anything like that.
Well, do come again, because you should see the coffee roaster right in the middle of the food hall in our global market hall.
Yeah, I think now that I remember, I think that maybe the
Yes.
coffee you can see, the coffee and the chocolate you can see.
The chocolate is fairly new. It will be 2 years this year that we opened the chocolaterie. But actually, in the history of Harrods actually started by actually packing tea and then roasting and coffee chocolate beans, and actually making chocolate on site. So we've come full circle, and 175 years later, we've brought the chocolaterie back and are making chocolate.
Fantastic. Okay. I think let's look a bit more at your topic title. So your topic title starts off with leadership and food safety culture. I think you've already sort of addressed the food safety culture and how that's part of the DNA of every single person that is in any way involved with food at Harrods. In terms of leadership, we've obviously just had International Women's Day. It wasn't too long ago, I don't think. And one of the things that always comes up at the Food Show Summit is there enough women working in the food industry? And if not, what are the different ways that we can sort of improve that sector? Obviously, you yourself are a very successful lady working in the food safety industry. What are your thoughts on that?
What are my thoughts? Well, the food industry, I was thinking about it as I was sort of contemplating this question. The food industry, when you look at, I would say up to sort of senior middle level of management, has quite a good representation of women.
Okay.
But then as you get higher up the management ladder, you see that number dwindling. And very often you look at board complexions of a lot of these big companies, and they're very, very, very male dominated. And I'm not quite sure what the reason for that is. What I do know is that the industry is quite a demanded industry. It is quite hard work. It is, I suppose, who wouldn't say? Everybody says their industry is hard work, but it's demanding in the sense that in my time in the industry, there's been a lot of travel.
Okay.
There's been a lot of sort of long hours, particularly in manufacturing. There could be very, very long hours working on sociable times, and with women who, even in 2023, there is still very much a case of women being more the home, looking after the home, bringing up the children. So in a way, like most jobs, it's not the most compatible
With a
with,
family
say,
life.
bringing up a young family.
Okay.
So that could be one issue. Another issue is being at the coal phase of manufacturing. It takes resilience, it takes tenacity, it takes almost a kind of person and a very sort of a tough person to be able to navigate the difficulties and the complexities of the industry like that. So that's probably what it is, but it is a fun industry. If you're passionate about food like I am, then you take it in your stride and you do it. What drives me is the passion. What drives me is seeing something on the shelf, seeing developing people, looking at my team and just seeing them progress and actually seeing the results of what they've done. And I stand in Harrods and I see customers coming in and I know that my team have contributed to making them safe and to presenting all the lovely food out there. It gives me the satisfaction. It gives me the motivation to go on.
Absolutely, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that. Just about the travel and the things. I remember a couple of years ago we had a speaker who was talking about quality of tea
Mm,
and how they had to travel all over the world
yeah,
to different tea growing countries and work with the local suppliers and farmers to make sure that their particular blend kept coming out exactly the same every single
yeah,
year. So I can imagine it wouldn't be easy to do a job like that, definitely, especially if you have a family. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Okay, brilliant. I think this is probably the last question now before I guess I have to let you go back to your work. So we're looking forward to obviously hosting you, like I said, in Milan, just in a couple of months now. Um, could you tell us two of the most exciting things that people can go to your presentation and hear about? You especially mentioned upcoming threats and horizon scanning, so maybe you try and focus on those. But it's up to you.
Okay, right. I think without sort of giving too much away,
Of
people
course, yeah,
should come and listen.
definitely, yeah.
I'm going to attempt to highlight why, in my view, food safety culture is even more important now than it has ever been.
Okay,
Over the years, there's been a lot of focus on food safety, getting things right, putting systems in place to make this happen. And this to date has been managed through HACCP to a large extent. The reality is that it takes people to ensure that systems work, and it takes people to do the right thing. Now, in the last few years, the world has gone through so much turmoil. We have gone through a pandemic. We're going through global crisis of wars all over. We know the very recent one, which is still ongoing, the war in Ukraine, climate change issues, supply chain disruptions. Um, all of that seems to have happened at the same time, which is creating an environment where food is scarce and prices are rocketing. At the same time, there's less money in people's pockets. And so prices are going up, but consumers can't afford to pay more. What all of that does is gives us a cocktail and an opportunity for things to go wrong in the industry because something's going to fall out of the bottom. Companies are struggling, high energy costs, they need to make money. At some point, something will give. And that is why it's even more incumbent on companies and company leaders to make sure that not only the right systems are in place, but then the people are in a place to safeguard our food for public protection. And how do we do this? I always say a happy workforce is an effective workforce. And for me, it's down to food safety culture. It's one thing training people till they're blue in the face in understanding it, but it's another thing people being willing and take the ownership and pride in making things happen. And that's where food safety culture comes in. So I will be attempting to tease out the tactics for improving and developing a sound food safety culture within our companies. I'll be attempting to do almost a comparison through case studies of companies that have showcased fantastic food safety culture and the benefits of that, and also do a contrast with companies that haven't and the shortfalls for that. Because at the end of the day, it's about leading by example. It's about walking the talk and putting in interventions to ensure that things happen even when leadership are not there. So food safety culture, I always say, is people doing what they do every day, regardless of who is not watching, essentially.
I think you've got two very good sound bites there, and I think that's a very good way to end. So a happy workforce is an effective workforce is the first one I came up with. I heard from you, and the second one is of course what you've just mentioned now about working always regardless of who's not watching. So Linda, fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you in May. And hopefully you haven't given too much away, and people are still willing to travel to Milan and hear you speak. Brilliant.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.